Good morning. I have been thinking about what I'm going to talk about today for a little while, and it feels like I'm going to be contradicting myself. So, I want to talk about what the professionals in our lives call the strength based model, which, as a parent growing up, I found the most infuriating thing possible. So, this is where you will be asked, what are the things that your child can do and can do well, and what can we celebrate about them? It's a really valid question, but it brings with it an awful lot of issues. One moment, the dog is asking to go out. And we're back. So we're asked what our children are good at. And as a parent, when you've approached a professional to say, I'm struggling, my child is struggling, my child is in pain, emotional, physical, I don't want to tell you what they're brilliant at. If I turn up at the accident and emergency department of hospital with a broken leg, I don't want you to ask me which parts of my body work. I would like you to fix the broken leg, please. So I think from a professional's perspective, there's a really flawed idea about this strength-based model that if you're a professional here and not a practitioner and you are listening to me, try and bear that in mind. How can you change your language so that what you intend makes sense? So, for example, I would like to understand, why is it that if I take one of my children when they were little, they were astonishing at maths and English. I mean, really super top notch, 2 or 3 years ahead when they started school. And we celebrated this. We said, oh, how wonderful is this? And then we forgot about it. And we forgot about it to such an extent that they were so far ahead that nobody did any maths or English with them other than the main lesson. Nobody praised them for their maths and English. What everybody noticed was that their social skills were not up to scratch. So that was wonderful. We didn't need to spend time on maths and English, did we? We could spend all of that time on social skills. The trouble is that my child then learnt that they were a failure. They never got to do the things that interested them, that they were good at, that they enjoyed, that they were wonderful at, because what they were doing with the rest of the class was incredibly boring. So their behaviour worsened, because when you're bored, you don't pay attention and you find something else to do. And all the teachers focused on was what they were bad at. So the whole of the school day was focused on failure, on trying to do something that they had no interest in, were not very good at, and made them feel less than. So if we're truly going to embrace this idea professionally of a strengths-based model, we have to identify the strengths of a child, and then we have to build on them, don't we? We have to do something with that. We have to celebrate it truly. We have to say, if this child is 2 years ahead in maths, how, in a mainstream school setting, for example, how are we going to help that child reach their amazing potential? Because that person there, that little boy, that little girl, is the mathematician of the future, is the Brian Cox of the future. Unless we ignore that, unless we go, oh, we noticed that, but now we're going to focus on the things you can't do. So that, I suppose, to start with, is my experience as a parent of what we call the strengths-based model. I'm really fortunate nowadays that I get to meet families. And one of the things I ask them first is, what's wonderful about your children? I suppose what I want to say to them is, I know that the reason we're talking is because you're struggling, and that's really real. And we're going to be talking a lot about that. But we also need to know, how can we put that wonderfulness about your child at the centre and really help everybody around them make the best of it? I hope that, being a parent carer myself, when I ask that question, The families that I speak to don't have the reaction I used to when I was faced with a teacher or a doctor who was saying, "Tell me the wonderful thing about your child." I hear the most amazing things. It brings back to me again that childhood is often the hardest time to get through for children with additional needs. Why is that? It's because we don't adapt it. We don't actually truly differentiate in school. We don't say, this child is fantastic at art. What can we do? I saw a beautiful story on social media recently of a little boy who'd been told off in school repeatedly for drawing where he shouldn't, and then was employed by a restaurant to draw on their walls. If you have an autistic child in a school, why not give them a commission? Why not get them to produce that art somewhere? Why not look, if you've got a child who's really good at maths, doesn't particularly get on with kids, put them in a class that's a year or 2 years older than them for that one lesson. They might even make friends who are older than them. They might not, but at least you will be able to boost their self-esteem and say, oh my goodness, look what you're doing. This is amazing. The social skills are really important, but a child isn't actually going to be able to learn them if they're not ready to. So why not create a safe, nurturing space based on what that child is good at and loves doing and is interested in? Because that's how we learn best as human beings. We play with the things that we are interested in and other things add in. If you teach a child with trains because they love trains, they're going to learn the colours of the trains, they're going to learn the names of the trains, they're going to learn how to write the names of the trains, they're going to learn how to count because they're interested. So find the wonder of that child, but actually then use it. Finding it isn't enough. Thank you. Speak to you soon.